Hey Rob, I'm unlikely to actually get a response from you in any meaningful way, at least on YouTube. But I might be able to catch up with you at a later stage, and it might be easier for me to encapsulate my thoughts on video first. Anyway, I had a look at your program on silence, and I think I actually did bring it up in the discussion component. Yes, I was one of the people on that. Yeah, I still have a few various questions. Part of it is, first off, that I still think that you may have overstated the point about silence. Certainly there is a role for stillness in our life, but I don't think that was necessarily the main component of any kind of church service. Far from it. I mean, obviously, it seems to be a big component of Quaker services, certainly the sense of self-reflection. But I suspect that it's not why a lot of people end up coming. I suspect it is the ideas, and more importantly, the ideas in the context of a service, plus all sorts of other things. The feeling of community is definitely one large part of that. But that's not the thing I'd like to ask. A more important one in my mind was this point that you brought up regarding transcendental meditation. Now, I'll admit I've not been much involved with it myself. However, a few things that were brought up, partly in the discussion, partly in the sermon itself, did cause me to question a few parts of that. First of all, you did mention that there are two different traditions of transcendental meditation, one being Buddhist and the other one being Hindu. The Buddhist one generally has this impression that meditation is very much for the psychology of meditation, whereas with Hinduism it is, as you said, something else. Now, I hate to prejudge this, as something else is a tremendously broad and vague term. You may very well have been referring to something quite real, and more importantly, quite evidential. However, the suggestion I'm getting is that it's not like that, that you were talking about something spiritual or something outside the normal brain relations. From this, I ask the question, if this is indeed your point of view, and I don't know if it is, why would you suspect this at all? What aspect of transcendental meditation seems to indicate a spirit? I don't really see the connection. Perhaps there is one, but I am kind of fascinated in that sense. To my way of thinking, TM is essentially just a way of putting your mind into a different series of brain states. It is psychology. Perhaps some amount of that may also be biology to some extent. I mean, certainly there is a chemical response, although arguably psychology is just a very sophisticated chemical response. But nevertheless, I think, for instance, like hypnosis can be argued to some extent to not only be psychology. Certainly schizophrenia is not just psychology. There is a certain amount of lower brain associated with it, not just higher cognitive functions. But nevertheless, I would like some clarification on what you meant by that. Also, a point that you brought up was this idea of leaving the question open. Now, in a general sense, I agree with you, in the sense that we always leave the question open. the scientific method, for instance, is very much an open discipline. And we always leave the possibility that we are wrong. However, I suspect that almost a 50-50 agnosticism is not warranted. Be aware, when we say that we may be wrong, we speak of it on a very, very strict sense. And I bring the example, I believe, in an email up of the theory of gravity. The theory of gravity is still a theory. It could be wrong. It's difficult to see in what way it would be wrong, but I mean, it's humbling to note that it has already been demonstrated that our first impression of gravity, certainly at the level of celestial mechanics, was wrong. Newton's gravity did not, for instance, explain the orbit of Mercury. It took Einstein's relativistic gravity in order to do that. But nevertheless, the path we took for that was very much the path that said we have a theory, and the theory does seem to work, and more evidence is required to demonstrate how it won't. And I don't think you've done this in this case. I think this idea of leaving the question as open as you seem to have, in a sense not even taking a position on it at all, is overstating the case for the opposition. I believe that, I can believe a lot of things, and what I believe is immaterial, but I suspect that the case really is, in a sense, out. It does appear to be psychology. I mean, certainly where the brain can go into alpha states, and I think alpha state may be pretty well awake though, but certainly this idea of partly sleeping and partly awake is certainly a psychology. This is a state of, or at the least it's very much a brain state. It's not anything else, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence to suggest it is. And so yeah, I was just curious on a bit of clarification of that. There is this slight fear that you're putting the position much more murkier than it need be. That one can take a position and then just simply take the caveat that everything in some ways is tentative. Anyway, I'll catch up with you later, but for the most part this was just to get my face back on YouTube and have something to talk about, and this was an interesting topic. So anyhow, have a good one.